Welcome to another instant reaction show, third of the day. Week one did not disappoint. JD Piquel joins me. JD, we had some intrigue in the night games, and then it felt like teams just pulled away. And, well, we'll get to James Franklin and what happened with the spread and the total at the end of that Penn State West Virginia game. Let's start in Charlotte. North Carolina beat South Carolina 31-17. Drake Maye looks awesome with the exception of a couple interceptions. But the surprise is North Carolina's defense sacking Spencer Rattler approximately 7 million times.
Yeah. They got, I think, about a third of his last year's total in one game. And the unfortunate reality, and Andy, you and I both know this, like being the quarterback of a high-profile college football team, you're going to get a fair amount of the blame. But I'm hoping we can all kind of hold our water a little bit here on the blame Spencer Rattler train, because he was dealing tonight from what I saw. I mean, didn't turn the ball over a ton of times. Like he was good Spencer Rattler tonight instead of what we've seen from him previously. Just had next to zero time to throw the football. So you look in the mirror a little bit with what's up front and what you can do with that running game around him. But all in all, man, outside of Drake Maye's turnovers, like you mentioned, he was absolutely dialed in. I mean, they were unstoppable tonight.
Well, that scares you for South Carolina because after Furman next week, it goes Georgia, Mississippi State, Tennessee, Florida. And if you can't block North Carolina, you're not blocking these guys either. So good luck with that. But Amari Gaynor, the transfer from Florida State, had a great night for Florida State or for North Carolina. And then, I mean, the rest of their defensive front was just awesome all night.
It was just pick a name. Like who do you want to go get the sack next? Like it was unreal. And what you mentioned about the rest of their schedule, like going into this game, Andy, we talked about who's going to play any kind of defense, much less get to the quarterback 10 times. I don't think any of us saw this coming going into this one. So for North Carolina to be the team that not just played some defense, played a lot of defense, you got to feel encouraged and kind of have your confidence boosted to play that way against a team like South Carolina, what Spencer Rattler did at the end of the year. But no, for South Carolina, like you mentioned, what they have ahead of them, that climb looks a lot more steep than it did before this game.
Yeah, and so you look at North Carolina, and Tez Walker was the big story coming in where he's still ineligible. They're hoping to shame the NCAA into letting him play. I don't know if that's going to work, but they had 9 different players catch passes. That's a good sign. Kobe Pacer was the leading receiver. 7 catches for 66 yards, but that's not a huge number, but Drake Maye was spreading it around, and I mean, he just looked so comfortable back there, which I just wasn't sure in a new offense with a bunch of new receivers what that was going to look like, but he looked very at ease.
He just controlled the tempo of the entire game, it felt like even when he was getting pressured, even when he had to step up and kind of extend plays, never looked panicked, always so calm. And that was one of the questions going in was, no Josh Downs, no Tez Walker, who's going to catch passes? And, I mean, we've seen that's what great quarterbacks do is when you don't have that alpha dog wide receiver, you elevate the rest of your receiving core and you can go make plays for yourself. So I think with Drake Maye, outside of those picks, which I don't know if you're overly concerned about if you're a North Carolina fan, they're going to be in a lot of ball games just by the sheer fact of what he's going to allow them to do offensively. So he picked up right where he left off, it looks like.
JD, I'm wondering, do we need to reappraise North Carolina? I know a lot of people had North Carolina as kind of a long shot ACC contender with Clemson and Florida State. This is a team that played for the ACC title last year. Maybe we need to consider them a potential ACC title contender again. I think the assumption was that Florida State has taken a leap and that Clemson is going to be better with Garrett Riley. And we'll see Clemson play against Duke on Monday night. And we'll see Florida State play Sunday night against LSU. But, I mean, if North Carolina is going to be that disruptive up front defensively, there's a good shot they can play with anybody.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see what they look like once they play an offensive line that has a less Swiss cheese kind of feel to it,
yeah,
if you will, when it comes to playing.
Right.
I mean, I love what Drake Maye does, and I think that he will keep them in every single ball game just by nature of what he does. I mean, he's special. I think they're probably in that 3 spot. Now, how far are they behind a Florida State or a Clemson? I don't know that answer. So it's a great data point, but I think right now you celebrate it as it is and maybe not try and project to what they'll be if you're a North Carolina fan right now.
We got some angry South Carolina fans. Pookie Poo, not happy with Al Loggins' play calling. Bravo Dave, South Carolina unworthy of the hype. I'm not sure they were incredibly hyped anyway, but no, that offensive line is going to be a problem unless they can do something drastic, and it'll keep being a problem. Let's go to a team that did not have a problem on the offensive line. That was Penn State. They controlled this entire game against West Virginia. West Virginia hung around, was very pesky, was down only a touchdown at halftime, but Penn State pulls away. And yes, for those who had money on the game, the late touchdown, and by late I mean very late, with a backup quarterback in the game, covered the spread and hit the over.
Big for the people. I mean, James Franklin solidifying himself as a man that truly is for the people, making sure we all get paid. Who everybody had money on the over and the spread. I didn't know that was on the over.
For those of us
too,
who had West Virginia cover and lose.
Yeah, I guess in that way he wasn't for the people so much. But no, I mean, first game of the year, you got your backup quarterback in there. I probably wouldn't do it unless I did have money on the game, but it is what it is. I mean, Drew Allar looked good though, man. He was as advertised in this kind of setting, wasn't he?
Well, and that's the thing about him, that we kept wondering, okay, how much of an upgrade, if at all, will he be over Sean Clifford? You saw tonight, there are a lot of things he can do that Sean Clifford just couldn't. The one play where he ducks under about two rushers, steps up, and then just unleashes one. I mean, you were never going to see that from Sean Clifford. That was
the play, yeah.
That was an NFL throw, and that is, the body control and the escapability. I mean, that's the sort of stuff that they've been waiting for in State College. And then you had, the guys up front, Chop Robinson, Abdul Carter, were in Garrett Green's face all night. West Virginia's line is actually not bad, and they did a good job with them. So I think you're going to see them be very disruptive with just about everybody they play.
And going back to what you said about Drew Allar, like, that is the one play that you can point to and say, that's what he gives us that Sean Clifford didn't. Like, that play in itself, not to say Sean Clifford couldn't get out of that, maybe check it down, but to have the sheer arm strength where he just kind of flicks the wrist, goes down to counter Lambert-Smith, strike up the band. Another one, he's rolling to his right. I believe it was one of his tight ends maybe coming across the field, or maybe it was Lambert-Smith. Just effortless, back across the body almost, easy first down, just making it look so casual. That vertical presence they have now with him playing quarterback that they have access to on top of the run game, like, that's why I think people are so high on Penn State. And to see it happen in game one, Andy, I thought there might be an acclimation period, might take a second to see him in game one look that way. You got to be fired up if you're in State College.
Well, yeah, those of us who picked Penn State to make the playoff feeling pretty good about that. And so they've got Delaware next week, and then they go at Illinois. At Illinois was one I was worried about. Remember that's Illinois came in there for the 9 overtime game a few years ago, and that Bielema ball style slowing it down. Illinois did survive Toledo Saturday night, by the way. But yeah, I want to see Penn State more, because it's very fun watching Drew Allar play, and you kind of imagine the possibilities of, once this guy gets really comfortable, this could be really good.
That's the scary part, is it was game one. Like, if this is the base we're standing on, not to say there won't still be like some peaks and some valleys, but if this is like the steady trend we're on upward, by the time that it comes to games against Ohio State and against Michigan later in the season, like, what version of Drew Allar are we going to get then? And also, how does he react to teams having some more tape on him? So as a whole, though, what you said, like, there's just certain things that God gave Drew Allar that Sean Clifford just didn't have. And that's no knock on Sean Clifford. It's just what you're excited about in State College right now. No, I definitely don't have it. That's why I'm right here in front of this camera talking to you. Otherwise, I might be doing something else. I might be playing right now. But that's just the reality, and it's one that you're not mad at if you're a Penn State fan.
No, it's something they haven't had. Because even Trace McSorley, as good of a QB as he was at the college level, didn't have the kind of NFL measurables that Allar has. And I think that's probably what gets you pumped about that. Let's move on to a question from Michael Blair in the chat, and it's about another game. Andy, is it a week one overreaction to say that Dave Aranda needs to be fired before the end of the season? That's probably a bit strong. I don't think I'd fired it. He did win you a Big 12 title a couple of years ago, so I don't know that I want to fire him quite yet. But yes, Baylor did lose to Texas State. G.J. Kinne's debut as the Bobcats head coach, starting a party in San Marcos. And, well, the party never actually stops in San Marcos. This just revs it up a little more.
Yeah, I don't think there'll be a whole lot of sleep in San Marcos this upcoming
What if they
Saturday.
open the water park? Like 2 a.m. at the water park to celebrate the. I think that needs to happen.
In Waco. So my wife Andy's actually a Baylor grad, and she's in the other room, so I'm gonna kind of keep my voice a little bit lower here. But no, with what we saw tonight, with them scoring, I mean, Dave Aranda specialized on the defensive side of the ball, and Texas State scoring 40-plus points. Like, how did we get from winning the Big 12 title to where we are right now? And it's interesting, too, the public perception around Dave Aranda is very fragile because he is more stoic. He doesn't get as fired up. And so when they're winning, it's, hey, he's wise, he's unflappable, he's calm. And when they lose, it's like, oh, he needs to land these guys more, needs to show more emotion. Yeah. Why isn't he get after him more? And so you kind of look at it both ways depending on what happens in the game. And I understand that. Should he be fired after this first game? I'd probably pump the brakes on that a little bit. I mean, we got a lot of ball left to be played. I'd maybe let this thing bake a little bit more than that.
Well, the other thing is, if you were wondering where TJ Finley wound up, he's at Texas State. And he had a hell of a game. 22 of 30 for 298 with 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, and he ran for a touchdown. So TJ Finley, for those who don't remember, started his career at LSU. He got thrown in there as a true freshman against South Carolina, played the game of his life, was incredible. We're like, this guy's going to win a Heisman. And then the next week he goes against Auburn and just gets destroyed. Winds up transferring to Auburn, saves their bacon against – what FCS team did he save them against?
Was it
Samford? I believe it was Samford. Yep.
That sounds right.
Saves their bacon against Samford. Probably kept Brian Harsin employed a little bit longer than he was. And then now he is at Texas State, and he was dealing. Baylor was not ready. And also, they got to Blake Shapen. Blake Shapen had his leg wrapped up, and Baylor tried Sawyer Robertson for a little bit, but it just wasn't enough, and it didn't work. So that was the surprise result of the night. That was probably the most surprise, other than obviously Colorado beating TCU at the beginning of the day. That was the shocking score in the night games. Let's go to a not so shocking score, JD, but there are things to talk about with this not so shocking score, and that is Alabama 56, Middle Tennessee 7. Jalen Milroe started, as we suspected he would, but he played until the very end of the third quarter. This was not a we're playing 2 guys to see. Jalen Milroe is their starter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very Ohio State-ish, if you will, from what we saw earlier in the day. Hey, both guys going to play, and then one guy just plays pretty much the whole game. I'm just curious to see with Jalen Milroe. He did some really athletic things against Middle Tennessee. Like the snap kind of goes past and picks it up, runs around, and scores a touchdown. I'm wondering, is that Jalen Milroe week in and week out, just what you're going to get? Or is it, hey, we had Middle Tennessee, good for Jalen Milroe, but that's not going to be what it is.
Yeah, the picking up the snap and scoring the touchdown is because it's against Middle Tennessee.
Right.
That ain't happening against Texas next week. That's
we got bigger problems in
Texas. It's a sack or maybe a gain of 1 or whatever. But that's the part that they got to figure out. I didn't think their passing game looked particularly dynamic, maybe because it probably didn't need to be. But this is who they're going with. Like that is the decision that Nick Saban has made. And Tyler Buckner came in second. I think that was what we were waiting to see, was who comes in second. It was Tyler Buckner. So there you go. If Jalen Milroe falters against Texas, we're probably going to see Tyler Buckner. That's the safe bet.
Hey, who's to say they're not just saving Dylan Lonergan for that first series? Trot him out there, ambush, just Nick Saban, just sneak attack on Texas. Dylan Lonergan's warming up the arm. But no, I mean, like you said, there is no two-way go here at Jalen Milroe's team.
I can't tell if you're doing that to get at me or to get at the Bama Online message board posters who feel like me. Like we've adopted Dylan Lonergan. He is our he is our pet cause for the year. So
I'm here for it.
I'm just waiting.
I'm here for it. You never know with how things can go in Tuscaloosa and how volatile that quarterback room seems to be. But no, having the best athlete on the field playing quarterback, it's hard to make a tremendous argument against that unless he's turning the ball over a ton, which he didn't. So all is good right now, but we're going to find out a lot more week 2 without question.
One more night game I want to talk about, and it was Georgia and UT Martin. Georgia started very slowly in this game. The offense looked pretty sloppy for the first half, and then it just sort of started rolling. So I don't know how worried I am about Carson Beck. And honestly, like, they got Ball State after this, and then they get their defensive line against South Carolina's offensive line. So I don't know when I would even worry about them.
It kind of reminds me of last year with Kent State. Like, we're checking the box score, and we're like, whoa, Georgia's – like, what is it with Kent State? Yeah, they're up, but, like, that margin should be much, much wider. And then Georgia went on and kind of just kicked it into gear. And also, I mean, like you said, Andy, Carson Beck, new quarterback, also new OC and Mike Bobo. So I think there's an acclimation period. I imagine they kept it the epitome of vanilla in terms of what they have in that playbook. So not tremendously worried, like you said, but I mean, I hope we learn a lot about them against South Carolina. I hope that's the game where we kind of see a little bit more of the horsepower, even though I don't know that we will.
I hope Spencer Rattler doesn't die when they play Georgia. That's what I hope. I mean,
we're not trending in the right way.
That could be awful. Texas A&M, New Mexico, that looks smooth. Connor Wegman looking in control of that offense. We talked about it this week. The nightmare scenario was if they scored 21 or something like that. No, they got over 35. All is well. They're ready to head to Miami and play a Hurricanes team that now has a running game. So I'm kind of excited for that game next week.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of what could have happened in week 1 with Texas A&M, like, you should check this box, right? But even so, last year, like, against App State and how that went and how they didn't look, like, super clean the first couple of weeks of the season. Like, so far, it's like the theme of this week was look how you're supposed to look against the teams that you're supposed to destroy. Now, obviously, South Carolina, North Carolina, different games like that have other assignments to them. But for Texas A&M to look the way they did, like, okay, great, stage is set for Miami. Let's see what you got in that game.
Yeah, and what else this week stood out to you? Obviously, haven't gotten to talk to you about Coach Prime yet. What were your thoughts as you watched that game?
The amount of pressure on Colorado, even though TCU was, national title runner-up and all these things with the expectations for them, like the team that won one game a season ago had all the hype, had all the pressure, and they went out there and just absolutely delivered. Like, if I had no idea which team finished second last year in the national title race, I would have said, oh, that Colorado team, they seem like they have it together, and they meshed so quickly. Like, I don't know about you, Andy, but once they had that field goal blocked, I was like, okay, this could be the turning point. Like, what do you have when you get punched in the mouth and things don't go your way? Because they started so fast, and then for them to just answer scores, continue to battle, find a way to get that stop on 4th down to win the game, like, the composure of that team just blew my mind for 86 new players. It was unbelievable.
That's the thing. I mean, people were like, nobody played any defense in that game. No, Colorado played defense critically at times. Mm-hmm. With the 4th down stop, the Travis Hunter interception near the goal line. I mean, they did make some incredible defensive plays. That in general, they gave up a lot of yards, but they were playing a very good offense. They were playing a much better offense this week than they're going to see next week.
Oh, without question. And they'll be at home next week. They'll be at their place with altitude and all the things kind of wind at their back a little bit more. And the interception in the red zone, that was huge by the one individual that did stay at Colorado with Trevor Woods making that play. Like, it's not going to look great in the box score, like you said, but the moments that it came at where, like, you have to be composed, you have to make a play, like Colorado did that in spades. And, I mean, there's no such thing as a bad win, especially given that they had one win a season ago.
It's interesting because it feels like the guys who were supposed to look like stars have looked like stars. So Caleb Williams had another great night. The highlight we saw, I mean, they crushed Nevada, but the highlight we saw from that game where he's just dancing around, I mean, he's magic. Drake Maye looked every bit the Heisman contender. Shedeur Sanders put his name in the mix, but Travis Hunter is the best player on that team. So I would say his name should be in the mix. I mean, if we power ranked Heisman candidates, and I get it, it's only 1 week. But Travis Hunter, I mean, we have not seen anything like that in years.
It was unbelievable. And for folks that decided to watch college football for the first time today, like, that is a superhuman kind of effort. I think he played over 100 snaps combined. Like,
Yeah.
You even at the high school level, you don't really do that. Like maybe some small high schools, but it's becoming less and less common to get that many snaps and to not just be. I think Joel Klatt talked about it. He's like, he's not just out there playing quarterback and something else. He's not out there playing like, a position where you don't exert yourself. He's running with receivers and then going and playing probably the top receiver on TCU's team and being extremely effective. And they tested him. I think he got targeted like 7 times on when TCU had the football, when he was playing corner. Like, just the fact that I even have to specify that he was being targeted as a corner and not a wide receiver in this conversation just tells us all we need to know about the effort he put forth today. And I'm so fascinated to see, like Jenny Tapp asked Coach Prime, like, hey, how do you keep him fresh? And his answer was he is him, which is great. But I'm curious biologically what that means throughout the course of his season, how we keep him healthy.
But remember, they did this at Jackson State too. So they have experience with it, even if we weren't all watching it game to game. So the thing about it that amazes me is somebody texted me, and I hadn't thought about this, but if Travis Hunter had gone through with he was committed to Florida State forever, if he was at Florida State right now, I don't think they'd be using him like this. And that's not a knock against Mike Norvell. He's a very good coach. But nobody would even think to do that.
No, only the only guy who in the course of history has done it at an elite level, at the professional level, who happens to be his head coach and has a 1 and 2 on his jersey just kind of switched over. Unreal. There's no head coach in the country that would be using Travis Hunter this way. And, I mean, Coach Prime deserves a ton of credit for the composure he showed that was top down throughout his team. And, yeah, I mean, I'm genuinely speechless the way that they handled business today. Unbelievable.
I love that they don't do captains. They do leaders and dogs, L's and D's.
Is that what that is? I saw the
if
D.
Somebody
and
gave me
like,
an L. I think I'd ask
means.
for a D. I think I would ask for the D instead of the L because I people are going to assume about the L, but JD,
I don't wear an L.
You get a D. We're
Hey,
putting a D on your
appreciate
jersey
you.
Next week. You're a dog.
I appreciate you. Likewise, Andy.
What a week. It was amazing. Hey, all right, before we go, JD, let's give the folks what they want. Quick pick, Florida State, LSU, Orlando, Sunday night. Who you got?
Andy, I've been terribly off base this weekend with my picks. So if you're a betting man, I would fade me right now. I like LSU to win. I like LSU in that sense not to cover, but I think they do win. So very, very close game. I just think the team speed of LSU and the players they have playing in this game that weren't a factor last year with Harold Perkins. I think Jaden Daniels takes another step from where he was last year. So I like LSU to win. I think it's very, very close. And I think Keon Coleman from Florida State goes off.
I think Florida State's going to have those receivers taking advantage of LSU's secondary. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game, a close game. I think Florida State edges LSU. So we are in opposition.
One of us is right. This is good.
Yeah. You can fade JD. You can fade me. Just whoever you like the least. But he's got the D on his jersey. That's all I need to know. Thank you so much, JD. Thank y'all for listening. Hope you are making your breakfast and listening to this podcast version and just enjoying week 1 of college football because it's not over yet. You got Northwestern Rutgers. You got LSU and Florida State. And we got Clemson Duke on Monday night. It's like the greatest weekend of all time. We'll talk to you again soon.